Hi everyone, it's Amy and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. I hope that you're doing well. Let me know how you're doing in the comments. Today we are doing a little bit of a different video. We are doing rankings of Emily Henry's books. I finished reading them this summer, and so I now have my definitive list of my opinion. Yes, this is just my opinion. We can duke it out in the comments if you don't agree, but this is how I would rank her videos. And obviously I am still not set up with my normal setup with the bookshelves. These are just some library books right here, just to show you the promise that books are coming. But we actually might be getting another bookshelf in here. I'll show you. If you have seen my other videos, you know we have 4 of these bookshelves from Target. But basically we have some extra room here, and on the other side of this shelf we have some room, so we can fit a whole other shelf. So more books, more room for more books, more room for like trinkets and things like that. My husband and I are kind of re-evaluating how we decorated in the past, so you might see more of our trinkets and just things from when we were kids, or just important things to us. So the new setup is coming soon, hopefully within the coming next couple of weeks. I've just been unpacking and doing all of the things that you do when you move, so a little life update there. But let's get into this list. I am really excited to tell you my rankings of Emily Henry's books. Jump scare. Hey, this is editing Amy from the future, and I'm in my kitchen. I realized that I made a mistake and didn't verify that I had covered all of Emily Henry's books, and I skipped a book. So a couple of my ratings are gonna have me kind of like editing myself in and changing the ranking, but it won't hopefully be too major of a deal. So you will see those edits in just a second, so please forgive that, and yeah, we'll get back to it. People We Meet on Vacation. This is a friends to lovers book, which I normally really love that trope, but I wasn't super keen on this one. This is about Alex and Poppy, who are college friends, and they go on these summer trips together every year, but they had a falling out and they decide to go on a trip together to kind of reconnect and reunite. So as I said, I normally love friends to lovers, and this was an interesting one where it had like a dual timeline between the past and the present. I just found that the pacing was not great. I feel like it kind of dragged on, especially like the 75% mark and on. And then I just wasn't really into like their romance. I feel like it was a bit toxic because without them really admitting to themselves and each other how they felt, they were getting in relationships with other people and hurting those people. And I was like, I'm not really okay with this. So I just wasn't a huge fan of that. And I feel like with the travel backdrop, like they're, you know, going to all these different places over the years, I feel like there just wasn't enough time to have like a lot of emotional depth. Like they did have their own like family things and personal struggles and issues, but I just feel like it didn't have the emotional depth that other books of Emily Henry's does. So even though like it did have like some witty banter, and obviously like the resolution is a bit predictable, but it was still like in a comforting way. It was like, okay, but it felt like we're finally getting together, and yeah, like it's finally happening. I'm sorry if any of this feels like spoilers. I know some people don't like this information, but with romance books I feel like it's fine, because especially with rom-coms it's like, okay, we kind of know that there's going to be like this happy ending and everything, but I promise I'm not giving everything away. There's plenty to discover in the book. But I rated this 3 stars. It's the bottom of the list. It just didn't hit for me like the other books do. Beach read. And I know this is a lot of people's favorite, and I understand why. I actually really connected with this book, especially with the female main character and the things that she deals with her family. But I just feel like it was a little bit lackluster as far as the romance goes. But this is basically 2 authors who end up in the same small town, and they were kind of like academic rivals, and they decide to basically switch genres. She is a romance writer, he is basically a literary fiction writer, and they challenge each other to like switch genres and try to write something. There is a lot going on in kind of the background with these characters. Each have their own struggles, which I really appreciate that Emily Henry does this, because it isn't just about the romance. Like, there isn't, you know, it's just them getting together and then they have no like personal conflicts or personality or anything. These characters definitely have personality and their own issues that they're dealing with, and how they're basically overcoming them and being able to come together in spite of whatever's going on. And I feel like that's just a reflection of real life. So I definitely appreciated that. I definitely liked the concept of the book. I wasn't necessarily thrilled with how it was executed. I do like the emotional depth that was there, but I just feel like there was a lot of like tonal shifts that didn't really balance well. I feel like it was just a lot of like up and down, and I wasn't a huge fan of the male main character. He was a little bit of a jerk. There were just little things that were off that added up to me just not being fully satisfied with the book. And I feel like it was definitely a hyped up book, because I feel like this is definitely a favorite of people's. So it's like, oh my god, beach read, beach read, beach read. And then I finally get to it and it just wasn't this amazing story like I feel like people kind of made it out to be. I definitely enjoyed like her exploration of like the creative process of writing and where you get your inspiration from. And the romance, like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of it. It was okay, it was sweet, but I just feel like it was not as great as some of her other books. So there were positives to it, especially the female main character and her family issues and everything, but and the small town. I really enjoyed the small town aspect and kind of the characters in the small town, but it just felt a little bit flat for me. So I rated this 3.5 stars, and it's number 4 on my list. Editing Amy from the future again. I'm coming to you with number 4 on my list, and that is Book Lovers. So this was the second Emily Henry book that I read, and I did really enjoy this, but I have like changed my rating just with time and thought as I've gone back and looked at these books. So this is basically like a work rivals to lovers story. We have Nora, who is an agent, a writing agent, and then we have Charlie, who is an editor. And this kind of takes place in a small town. It's sort of like a summer trip with siblings. There's a lot of different things going on, but I really did like the romance in this book more than the previous 2 books. But I was not a huge fan of like all of the family dynamics and just kind of like family trauma and stuff. Just as a personal thing, it was just like a slight trigger, I guess, at the time. I just remember it being like a very emotional kind of read for me, but that shouldn't necessarily be a deterrent for anybody. I think it's like, you know, just be aware of what you're going into. But this, you know, has like the small town vibes, the kind of like summer love affair sort of feel to it, the work rivals thing, which is a trope that I really enjoy. Overall, I enjoyed this, but it wasn't quite as good as the following books on my list. But I think it was just more of dealing with like the family trauma and things like that. So just be aware of that going into it. But I rated this 3.5 stars. Number 3 on my list, I actually really enjoyed this book, and it is Funny Story. So we have Daphne and Miles, I believe is the male main character, who are in this small town, and they kind of have a chaotic situation where both of their partners broke up with them, and then those partners got together. So Daphne and Miles decide to become roommates because they both need places to stay, and they develop a friendship and kind of have a fake dating situation going on. But there is just a lot of funny moments and emotionally deep moments as well. I feel like it had a really good balance of all that, but I really enjoy the chemistry between these two characters. If you're familiar with the show New Girl, I really feel like this had New Girl vibes to it, but like in a small town. But especially with the male main character, Miles, he definitely gave me Nick Miller vibes. So if you know what I'm talking about, then you understand. But I just really enjoyed the chemistry between the two of them, the banter between the two of them. The romance just didn't hit quite as hard, and the emotional depth wasn't quite as impactful to me as the next two books on the list. Now, number 2 on my list is probably going to be a hot take because a lot of people didn't like this book, and that is Emily Henry's latest release, Great Big Beautiful Life. I personally really enjoyed this book. I think it was just, this is a different kind of story for her to write, and I just really enjoyed that aspect about it. I like seeing an author explore new things, but still, she stayed true to her roots in having the romance and everything, but I really enjoyed this premise of these two authors competing to write this famous woman's biography. She basically became, anonymous and kind of disappeared, and then she is wanting to have her biography written. And I really enjoyed the chemistry between the two characters, even though the romance wasn't necessarily the biggest part of the story. A lot of people were like, there just wasn't any romance in it, but there was. There definitely was romance. I just feel like it was not necessarily in competition, but in this dual narrative of following the life and history of this famous woman and how their romance is kind of intertwined with their work. So if that doesn't appeal to you, then I probably wouldn't pick this up. I wouldn't recommend it. I really enjoyed it. It was definitely getting to learn an interesting family history. It's like this famous family legacy and just all of the drama that was in it. I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I really enjoyed how everything kind of intertwines and affects each other. So it was just a different thing for her, but I definitely am wanting to see more of this kind of work from her. I don't know how with the reception of it with her normal audience, I don't know if she's going to continue doing that, but I'm excited to see what she does next. But I really enjoyed the chemistry between the two characters. I thought it was very genuine and heartfelt. I like kind of the lighthearted banter that was in this. It definitely, again, wasn't like a huge romance focus, but I feel like it just had a more mature tone to it, and I feel like it really showed growth of the characters, especially the male main character. And yeah, there was just an emotional depth and maturity to it that I feel like her other books didn't quite have. And I rated this 4.5 stars. So of course, the last book left is going to be my number 1, and that is Happy Place. This was actually my first Emily Henry book, and maybe that is like a nostalgic thing for me because it was my first introduction to her writing. And I just really fell in love with the way that she writes characters and the way that she writes romance, and then there's still like a balance of humor in there as well. I just really enjoyed this story, and it's a second chance romance, which I surprisingly have found that I am a fan of. I like friends to lovers, and I like second chance romance, and I like work or school rival romances. But this was a really great second chance romance. So we're following Harriet and Wynne, who were engaged, but they broke up, but they're pretending to still be together for the sake of their friends when they go on this like yearly friends getaway trip together. So it is set in a small town in Maine in this cottage, so you get really great kind of small seaside town New England vibes, which I really love. And being with this group of friends really brings an interesting dynamic to the story. I feel like there's a lot of nostalgia with all of their memories, but there's also some interesting tension in there, and there's definitely some bittersweet moments. But I really enjoyed how all of the characters interacted and getting to learn their relationships. I feel like this one emotionally hit me the hardest because it was like this group of friends and how deeply connected they were with each other, and basically the changes that they were having to go through. I don't want to give anything away, but there definitely were a lot of like difficult things that were going on, but it was done in this way that was like this healing look at change. So I really appreciated that aspect of it. And like I said, this was a really well balanced book. I feel like it had a great balance of the romance and the friendship, and also like introspection, where you're kind of getting to see how the characters are thinking to themselves and how they want to interact with other characters. And I feel like it definitely makes you think about yourself and your friends and how you interact with them and the changes that you go through in life as far as staying connected to friends and things like that. So I feel like this is one that a lot of people can relate to. And to me, it is the most memorable story. I feel like when I'm like, okay, which book automatically would come to mind when I think of Emily Henry, and I would definitely think of Happy Place, because it just had that impact on me. And I feel like it really embraced what it was. You know, with rom-coms we tend to have like silly premises where it's, you know, we're having to pretend to date, or you know, whatever shenanigans the main characters get up to, but it was like the characters embraced that this is a crazy situation that we're having to go through with, but we're doing it for the sake of our friends. But we both understand that this is awkward and uncomfortable and chaotic. And I liked that aspect of it. I feel like it made it more real. I feel like this could potentially happen in real life. And even though it is like crazy and chaotic, I definitely would want to reread this one. I don't really like reread books very often because I just have so much that I want to read, but this one I feel like could become a comfort read and a reread for me in the future. So that says a lot for me. I feel like if a book has a story that makes me want to come back to it, that definitely puts it high up on my list. So that makes Happy Place at number 1, and I rated this 4.5 stars. Alright guys, that is my definitive ranking of all of Emily Henry's books. Let me know what you thought about my rankings, and definitely let me know yours. If you totally disagree with any of my rankings or the whole list itself, definitely let me know in the comments. We can duke it out. I know some people have really strong opinions about her books. These are definitely like just kind of comfort reads. In the summer, it's just fun to read like a romance. And the last 2 books that I read, People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read, those definitely were like comfort reads during my move and everything. Definitely, I find like rom-coms to be a sort of comfort read. So getting all of these from her, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what else she writes. Let me know if you enjoy Emily Henry's books, or if you haven't read them at all. Let me know which ones piqued your interest. But that is going to be it for me today, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye!